It's your boy Young Grizzly with another mindset video. Mindset slash finance. So I'll probably title it. Finally got the hair twisted. Spent a day or two over in Deltona, or sorry, Deltona, Florida, with my homeboy, and just helping him out with stuff, or just chilling with him and helping him out with the kids and stuff like that. And then went to a club a couple nights. Found this one chick in there. Um, let's just say I got multiple services from her. One of them was actually getting my hair done, which is great. So that was good. But order of operations. This is something that I saw Ed talk about, or this, I was already thinking about this because I had talked to a dancer about this. And then I also listened to a stream from Ed Anderson. And it just, I talked to Ed, and I sent him an email, and I said, "Hey, listen, we should do a stream about his thoughts on crypto and stuff like that, and his thoughts and also feelings and what he would do in terms of crypto and everything like that." And I hear what he says, and I always think it's like biased, like it's against crypto or something like that. He always quotes somebody like Ty City, which I don't agree with Ty City, and I had a stream with him about it, where Ty City thinks that you should have $2,000 to get into crypto, or you need $2,000 to get into crypto. You don't. You need 10, whatever the minimum is for Coinbase for you to buy something. That's what you need. That's it. You don't need anything crazy or an exorbitant amount of money. Now, to Ed's defense and what he's actually said, what Ed talks about is, a lot of people think that they're going to get a lot of money or something like that from crypto if they put in a little bit. And yes, that is delusional. That is the wrong thinking. So I understand his point when he says that, and that's why I wanted to talk through it, because it's something where we could talk about it to where it actually is a mindset or course correction for people possibly. But I'll do it in this video. I didn't hear back from him, and I also wanted to have my own I have my own little agenda and message that I wanted to put out there. But order of operations: talking to a dancer. The other day or the other night. And, a lot of people, and I've seen this in men and women, but a lot of people have this thought process of, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then, or they'll do this. It's going to be quick succession. She was like, okay, I could be a notary public, and then I can do Airbnb, something arbitrage. And I'm like, it's a fancy phrase or way of doing business that has a name to it. And it's just like, that doesn't, okay, Airbnb arbitrage or rental arbitrage or something like that, meaning you're moving from one market to the next. In terms of classic arbitrage, you're moving from one market or exchange to the next, and then you actually, but you're buying it low in this market and then selling it high in the next market. And you could do that really quickly and make sometimes 1 to 2% or something like that on your money just by transferring it, or buying here and selling over here. And, I've heard things like that. And then she's talking about other things she wants to do in real estate and all this other stuff. And then, but during the day, she's a behavioral therapist, and she's making like $17 an hour and has to dance at night. And I'm like, okay, well, how are you going to be a mobile notary or notary public if everyone is not available or you're not available during the day when, documents and paperwork get signed? It didn't make any sense to me. So I asked her simply, while I was getting my dance, because I talked to dancers. She was nice. She's nice looking and all that other stuff, but sometimes you just talk to them because it's like I've seen this body before, so I get more out of talking to them. And talking with her, I asked her simply, what would you do if I gave you $1,000 right now? And she hesitated for now, it was not even a hesitation. It was a pause, because she was just like, there's so much she could have done, I guess. And I'm like, already you failed in a sense. Because if somebody comes to you and says that if I gave you this amount of money to make your business successful or what have you, and you don't even know already what to do, that means you haven't even planned or even thought about it. That means you don't even know you're having a hard time coming up with 1,000 or whatever that amount of money is. So if you said, "Hey, listen, I want to make my business successful," well, what does that mean? What are you going to do that? What are the order of operations? What is your procedure? What is your plan? Have you even thought about this? If you won $1,000 right now, what would happen? And a lot of people don't know that. Like, even if I said, "Hey, listen, after taxes, I'm gonna give you $1,500. Your state's gonna take out a third. After taxes, you'll have $1,000 free and clear." What would you do with that? And again, this woman and then other men that I've even talked to, they just don't have plans. They're not even thinking that far. Like, they haven't even come up with a plan to say, "Hey, listen, okay, this is my budget. This is what this is what I need, or my expenses or planned expenses. These are the things that I need to work out, or I need to achieve, or this is what I need in terms of resources to execute my plan," or what have you. And people are just not thinking about this to begin with. And it's really kind of sad. So even when I asked her, she was like, "Well, okay, it turned from, doing the Notary Public to, okay, well, if I had $1,000, I would do the Notary Public. No, no, no. I would fix my credit." And I was like, "Well, how much do you have in credit, or like in issues with like your credit and stuff like that in terms of like debt?" She's like, "Well, like $2,000." And I'm thinking, I was like, "Well, you only have 1,000. So what are you going to do? Like, you only have 1,000." And she was like, "Okay, well, I would just get the Notary Public and do that." I was like, "All right, cool. You're going to get the Notary Public." And I'm thinking to myself, well, how are you going to do it? Like, who are you going to go to? Who is going to be your clientele? How are you even going to start to get that clientele? Are you just going to do the foolish thing and start printing out business cards and stuff like that? Me personally, I don't like business cards. That's why I always introduce myself as Mike the Computer Guy, and then that starts a whole conversation. That's an icebreaker, if you will. I always, say my name and then, give you my profession. And I tell other people to do it too. And then, people are like, "Well, do you have a business card?" No, I don't believe in business cards. We live in a digital era. It doesn't really make any sense. You're just going to put it in your cell phone anyway. So how about this? My number is 9, blah, 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 and go from there. And then they actually put in like, "Hey, save me as Mike the Computer Guy, Michael the Computer Guy, IT specialist, whatever." But save me as my profession, because when you look it up, you're going to look for computer guy, right? So I started doing that years ago, and I stopped asking for cards and stuff like that. I don't want cards. I don't give out cards. It doesn't really make any sense to do it to me. So, I'm listening to her and she's saying this stuff. And again, I've listened to men do the same thing. This is not just getting on women. This is general finance. This is general thought about a business and what you're going to do and how you're actually going to make that business work for you in the long run. And she just had she knew what she wanted to do, or she knew it sounded good, but it didn't make any sense. Now, beforehand, this is the woman that talked about, earlier on in the conversation, "I want somebody to match me, match my energy, match my hustle, blah, blah, blah." And then you find out she makes $17 an hour, or about $35,000 a year, helping out autistic kids. And I'm like, listen, a dude working at McDonald's will match you in certain areas, a dude at McDonald's working on a second job can match you, or a dude at McDonald's working overtime can match you. Like, I don't know what type of hustle that you think that you're doing that's so great that you think is going to be matched. I'm thinking to myself, it's like, I'm like listening to her, and I'm like, this is just bullshit. This is the social programming that we talk about, and I will be starting up my emotional programming series again. I did like one video, but I do have another video. I want to do the Saweetie song "Closer." So the emotional programming of music, and it'll be labeled, this music is turning your daughter, turning your daughters out. I'm gonna be like emotional programming, turning your daughters out. And then it'll talk about the music and stuff like that. Anyways, but I'm listening to her and I'm like, this is the social programming. This is the trendy. This is the positive affirmations. This is the trends that you hear on all these different websites, TikTok, what have you, or any social media website. And I'm like, she doesn't even know what the fuck she's talking about. Plain and simple, she just doesn't know. And I was talking to my homeboy, a long conversation before I left his house last night. But I think we spent maybe like 2 hours just like talking, just chopping it up, And he was talking about one of his homeboys, and I was just like, the stuff that the guy talks about is stuff that he shouldn't worry about, especially as a man at 40. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And then I told him, you have to understand that, kind of the Masters of the Universe concept, literally, we take things out of thin air, and it's like our hand is disappearing. Like, if you see this, it's like, it's like this, right? Like, I'm gonna just do a little example. It's like, yo, you see my hands disappearing, and then when it raises back up out of almost thin air, oh my God, I have created something. So I told him, and like, we could talk about things, and my business partner, brother, always talks about this. He says, Mike, you say stuff, and I just say, in about 1 week, this dude is gonna show me what he was just talking about. And like, it's just crazy the level of execution and focus that I have when I want something or want to do something, right? And this is why I talk about, like, hey, listen, a lot of people don't want to admit that they're getting everything that they want out of life. If you want to lose weight, you'll lose weight. If I really wanted to lose weight, I'll lose weight. I mean, I've trained kids to not just lose weight, but to build muscle and so on and so forth. And you're not doing it for yourself, that means you don't want it. Just that's just the honest opinion of it. That's just how it is. I know what it is, and I'm not gonna fool myself. And that's a part of, like, being comfortable with yourself and understanding who you are, and also understanding your reality, and not being delusional about it. So, we're men that talk about something, and then we could just pull it almost out of thin air and just show it to the person. We can manifest these things that we're talking about. I want a house with land. I want a workshop or a building. I didn't get the building I wanted, but I got something. I want this truck. Got the truck. You know what I mean? Not the year that I wanted, but got the truck. Like, it's like all these things we're able to manifest and pull these things out of almost like nothing. So when I listen to this woman talk, I'm like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You don't even know what the fuck you want. And you are really going to fail very, very fucking hard. Oh my God. I'll come in here 6 months from now, and you might still be shaking your ass. There's always a possibility, of course, that she won't. She'll find something else, or be able to, successfully pull off her thoughts and stuff like that. But then I think about long-term success. If I gave you $1,000 and it takes you about $500 to get the Notary Republic, all right, cool. That's $500 right there. What are you going to do next with the rest of the $500? What are you going to do to actually promote your business and actually ensure that you keep as much money as possible? So I'm listening to what she's saying, and I'm like, sadly, you're going to fail, because I'm just asking you straight up I'm just asking you questions. And literally this chick was just like, she's never thought about it. Like, all of the exuberance and animation that she had, and all this other stuff just went right at the door, because she just didn't know. She was never quizzed or asked these questions. And I was just like, okay, cool. How you just, like, you're talking, he's like, you're ending the conversation, because, like, all right, cool. Hey, listen, man, I hope you make it. It's gonna be great. All right, cool. And you're thinking to yourself, oh, this bitch ain't going nowhere. Like, this shit ain't working. This shit ain't gonna work. So it doesn't make any sense to talk about these things that, in terms of, like, what we want to do without actually having an order of operations. So now, getting to something that Ed talks about, or Ed Anderson talks about, is people focusing so much on crypto, and I think he's right to a certain extent. He is biased in a certain extent, and I perceive him to be biased about it. But there is an order of operations to investing. One thing he said, he's like, listen, if a guy is only making $35,000 or $40-something thousand a year, I'm not going to tell him to invest, or that shouldn't be his first priority. I beg to differ, and if a person makes on average $40-something thousand a year, or black men, especially in America, on average make $40,000 a year, possibly for the rest of their lives, what's going to happen when they get into retirement? They need something. They're going to need some type of savings or something like that. So that's where I would push back on it. And he might say, that's not what I meant, dude. So, it is what it is. And we could have that conversation, or he could make a comment on it if he wants, make a comment on the video if he wants. But I perceived it as, like, another quote unquote excuse for people not to invest. Yes, probably your biggest and best investment that you can actually make is in yourself. So when it comes to investing, I think what people should do is invest in themselves at certain levels, or have different levels of investing or what they invest in. So definitely should have a savings. You should invest in the security of your financial situation, having $1,000 put aside or something like that, or even $2,000 to $5,000 put aside. That can actually really help you, right? And that's a lot of money for a person that is only making $45,000 a year. That's a big thing. But I think you should always invest in like standard markets. So if you have the option to do a 401k, if possible, usually jobs that are, paying that low in terms of $45,000 a year may or may not have a 401k plan or even matching or anything like that. So you should actually have some type of investing vehicle for retirement, no matter what you make. If that is, you don't want to go into major investing, you want to do something more conservative, at the very minimum, you should be saving a percentage of your check. Richest Man in Babylon, great book. You can find it on YouTube. It's a 4-hour audiobook and it's free. And it talks about saving 10% and putting 10% to yourself before you put it to anyone else. And I think that's very important. That 10% should be towards either savings, depending on what you're making. Now, if you have a little bit more disposable income, that's when you start to really get into, okay, where should I invest in crypto? Should I invest in retirement, regular stock market, which is still retirement in some cases, or crypto, which is a little bit more, is riskier, right? First, you should always make your investment for retirement, right? That could be your savings. For some people, you don't want savings personally, because in savings, it's good. They're charging you to save nowadays, even in bonds and things like that. The market is not a saver's market per se, like in terms of bonds and things like that. You're losing money on these bonds, these long-term bonds. So you're better off putting in the market where you're actually going to make something. It is riskier and you could always lose money. So savings for some people actually is a better bet. Now, after savings, then you get into your retirement, right? So savings, retirement, and then we'll go on. So we'll just add one more. So savings, right? Then we have retirement. So that's your retirement income, your retirement accounts, your 401ks if available, your IRAs, Roth IRAs, right? And your the IRA is better as a personal retirement account or a personally controlled retirement account, because it's pre-taxed, right? And with the pre-tax dollars, you can invest more in pre-tax dollars, but you will be taxed later on when you take your disbursement. Then you have your Roth IRA out of that, or as a sub item. So your Roth IRA is post-tax. So the money's already taxed, you're putting it in the Roth IRA. You go ahead and max that out, and that could be that's usually like $6,000. So with your savings, there's no limit on that. With your IRA, with your 401k, it's $22,000 a year. With the IRA, I think it's $19,500 a year. And then with your Roth IRA, it's $6,000 a year. And again, with the Roth IRA, since it's already taxed, you will not be taxed when you take a disbursement. Then you get into your riskier stuff, right? So, then you get into your regular stocks, right? So that's number 3. So you get your regular stocks. Now you can invest in your regular stocks, and you're playing with that money and you're gambling a little bit, right? Then, I'm not going to go crazy with that, but that's just, I buy Tesla and then it goes up or it goes down. I sell it and then I have to pay taxes on that. Then you get into your riskier stuff, which is your cryptocurrencies and, NFTs and so on and so forth, right? That's your riskier stuff. But you see the order of things. Savings, more conservative, but they're going to charge you for it. Retirement accounts. So there's 3 or 4 flavors I just talked about. Yeah, 3 flavors. So 401k, IRA, Roth IRA. Yeah, and even HSA if you wanted to do that. So there's a couple things in the retirement savings accounts, or retirement accounts. And then you have your regular stock market, and then you have your cryptocurrencies, which is, again, bottom of the barrel. You've already saved so much money up here in all of these first 2 or 3 things, depending on how you're doing your savings. But your savings could be as emergency or it could be long-term savings. But in these 3 things alone, you've saved thousands of dollars, especially if you've maxed them out. Then you're getting down into the cryptocurrencies where you're doing all types of crazy stuff. Now, the way it's framed when Ed talks about it in terms of order of operations is you should be focusing on making more money so that you can actually have more disposable income to handle all of your expenses, and then, or disposable income is after you've handled all your expenses, and then you can do more in investing. And that's what he's focused on, and that's why I think that's where I see the bias, because he's focusing on you making more money in terms of your economics, which are very important. And he's right, black men don't really talk enough about their economics. This reminds me of like Alfalfa from Sandlot, and it had the hair always sticking up. Anyways, these will drop hopefully pretty soon. So, that's where he's talking about when he's focusing, like he says, focus on your business, focus on whatever's making you money. Going back to the dancer, if anything, if I gave you $1,000, focus on the thing that's going to make you money, your actual side hustle that you can actually do while even working your day job and even working dancing if you wanted to. A lot of dancers will go in there and they spend all their money on drinks and all this other stuff, and it's just like, yo, you're not even working the club, you're not talking with people, you're not actually building any type of clientele to actually make sure that every time that person comes in, you're his girl, blah blah blah. Like, it's just like, bro, if I was a dancer, bro, oh man, I wouldn't even have to sell shit. I don't have to sell no pussy whatsoever. My shit would be so straight. But that's the higher end clubs. They have women that think a lot better and think a lot long term. Some of them. But so when I hear this woman talking, I'm like, you're not even, your order of operations is out of whack here. You're not even thinking about, okay, well, I can't invest yet. I can't be doing Airbnb if I have no money to fund it. You need to be actually making active income that's coming in. Then you can actually go ahead and put it towards, all of your investing, like your Airbnbs and stuff like that, because you're going to need money for that. You're going to need money to clean out your Airbnb if you're not doing it yourself, or any other type of things that happen, service calls, so on and so forth. You can't be like, hey, listen, man, I'm going to go to the club tonight. Hopefully somebody will come in and I'll make $100 and I'll get that stove fixed. It's not going to work. You have to have that money ready. And I think that's what Ed talks about. Again, I haven't talked to him about it, but I did want to. But in terms of order of operations, get something that's stable, that's bringing in the money. Once you do that, you can actually make that better, stronger, and invest in that to where it's making you more money, whether it be ads or improving your skills or what have you, depending on what that source is. And then after that, you can start taking that and making investments. And then with those investments, you have all those levels of investing, where it's your savings, your retirement accounts, your regular stock market, and then your riskier cryptocurrencies. And then after that, then you can start getting into maybe even riskier things, or along with passive income and so on and so forth, and start to venture out. And riskier means just it may be out of your comfort zone or something like that. So it may be out of your core competency. So it's something that you've never really gotten into, but somebody that knows somebody and you trust this person, you get into a business. That was me with the salon. What I learned from that is we should have started smaller and grew into a bigger space. And that was one of our main problems. I don't think it was a horrible thing, but I think the execution and the way it was done, it's hard to fill 26 spots when there's nobody in there. But if you had 10 people in there and they're solid, excuse me, and then they're solid, then you should actually grow from there into a larger space. So every so often, now you have 10 people, now you got to move out of the space to a larger space, so on and so forth, instead of starting a whole new spot. Anyways, yeah, so that's order of operations. And honestly, we just went to 2 levels. Get a job that makes money and is stable, then invest money. And then you can keep on going from there. And of course, you have sub-levels within that. So even if you got a job, you get a side hustle, you get passive income, maybe write a book, do some YouTube, put some information out there, sell ads or resell stuff, so on and so forth, have a side, I already said side hustle. And then when it comes to investing and savings and stuff like that, there's all the different levels in there. All right, so that's all I got for order of operations. Let me get back to work so that I don't lose my job, so I can still invest and do other things, and tell you how I and increase my bag or fuck up my bag. So that hopefully helps you all. As always, love you guys. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you watching, giving me the feedback on the bottom of the video, in the comment sections. Also joining some of the ASMR chats. I got some new stuff. I bought more stuff. So I'll be putting some more stuff together in the shop probably in the next 2 days or so. Probably even this weekend. I think my friend might come up with his kids and spend some time up here. And hopefully he brings his mom because then she could talk to my mom and go from there. But yeah, with that being said, I appreciate you all, love you all, wish you all the best. All right, peace.